Okay, this is the comparison between the Forrer's grass frog, the Rana Forreri, versus the brown rat, the Rattus norvegicus, by Julia Cornish, Luis Rojas, Vincent Garcia, and Melanie Martinez. So the background is the Rana Forreri is from kingdom Animalia, phylum Chordata, class Amphibia, order Anura, family Ranidae, genus Rana, species Forreri. And their habitat consists of Mexico and Central America. And within their ecosystems, they generally are in the middle of the food chain, where they prey upon insects, but are preyed upon by larger animals. For reproductive habits, they require a permanent water source for the eggs, and females are attracted to and pick their mates based on the calls that they produce. And they tend to be relatively social animals. In contrast, the Rattus norvegicus is from kingdom Animalia, phylum Chordata, class Mammalia, order Rodentia, family Muridae, genus Rattus, species Norvegicus, and they tend to live alongside humans, mainly in Eurasia and the Americas. Where brown rats are native, they generally are in the middle of the food chain, where they prey upon animals, but are also prey for bigger carnivorous animals. Brown rats are not monogamous, and females will mate with unknown males and will reproduce multiple times a year. And brown rats are incredibly social and very talkative with each other.
So for the digestive system of the Rana Forreri, they have an upper and lower jaw with no teeth. They have a salivary gland, which is used to make saliva, which helps in the process of digestion. They have an esophagus, which carries the food from the mouth to the stomach. They have a stomach, which digests and breaks down the food. And in the pancreas, it creates enzymes that aid in digestion for the small intestine. They have a liver, which consists of 3 lobes that produce bile. They have a gallbladder, which is a reservoir for bile. They have a small intestine, which absorbs nutrients from food, and a large intestine that absorbs the rest of the nutrients from the food. For the Rattus norvegicus, they have an upper and lower jaw with teeth. They have salivary glands, which also make saliva to help with digestion. They have an esophagus, which moves food through the stomach. They have a stomach, which breaks down the food. They have a pancreas, which secretes digestive enzymes into the small intestine. They have a liver, however, it consists of 4 lobes. They make bile that store fat and reduce it to watery minerals. They have no gallbladder, which means that the bile goes straight down to the small intestine. This is the site of most chemical digestion and absorption of nutrients. They have a large intestine, which connects the small intestine and the rectum and manages remaining bile. They have a cecum, which stores bile and food particles, and a rectum, which releases the remaining wastes.
All right, moving on to the excretory and reproductive system. For the Rana Forreri, they have the kidney, which cleanses blood and transforms this blood into urine. They have the ureters, which carries urine from the kidney into either the bladder for storage or into the cloaca. The bladder, as previously stated, is a site for storage for urine and waste. The cloaca serves both the excretory and the reproductive system. For the excretory system, it excretes waste, and for the reproductive system, it collects and passes both sperm and eggs. The male reproductive system consists of the testes, which produce sperm, the vasa efferentia, which transports the sperm, the seminal vesicle, it produces seminal fluids, and the cloaca passes the sperm. In the female reproductive system, it consists of ovaries, which produce eggs, the oviducts, which transports the eggs, and the cloaca, which passes the eggs.
For the Rattus norvegicus, they have a kidney, which cleanses the blood of toxins and transforms the waste into urine. The ureters carry urine from kidney to the bladder. The bladder is where it expands to hold the urine and it flattens to send the urine to the urethra. For the reproductive systems in males, they have testes, vas deferens, prostate, epididymitis, penis, and scrotum. For the reproductive system of females, they have paired ovaries, fallopian tubes, uterus, cervix, and vagina.
All right, moving on to the respiratory system. The rana Forreri has 3 different kinds of respiration. The first being the cutaneous respiration. In this type of respiration, mucus glands keep the frogs moist, and this moisture helps absorb dissolved oxygen in the air, which is later diffused into the bloodstream. The next type of respiration is a buccal respiration, and in this type of respiration, the nostrils are open while the mouth is closed. The floor of the buccal cavity is raised and lowered, which allows air to enter and exit through the open nostrils. The glottis in this respiration is closed to prevent the oxygen and carbon dioxide from leaving the lungs. And there's mucus in the buccal cavity, which is rich in capillaries, and the capillaries, they allow for gas exchange. And they also have pulmonary respiration, but because they have weak lungs, they tend to not use this as much as previous 2 respirations. On the other hand, the Rattus norvegicus, they use pulmonary respiration, like most mammals. Oxygen enters through the nasal cavity and moves through the pharynx, and it is then moved through the trachea, and the trachea transports oxygen to lungs, and it removes carbon dioxide from the body. And oxygen is later moved through the bronchi and into the bronchioles. And later the alveoli helps with diffusion of the oxygen into the bloodstream. And the main organ for respiration in rats would be the lung. And their lung consists of 4 lobes on the right side and 1 lobe on the left side.
So the circulatory system for the frog is a closed circulatory system where there are 3 heart chambers. For the first heart chamber, the right atrium, deoxygenated blood is passed through, and for the left atrium, oxygenated blood is passed through. For the ventricle, oxygenated and deoxygenated blood can mix, and the frogs have 3 circuits: the systemic circuit, which pumps oxygenated blood, the pulmonary circuit, which pumps blood to the lungs, and the pulmocutaneous circuit, where blood is pumped to the skin to receive oxygen from the air. For the Rattus norvegicus, they also have a closed circulatory system, but they have 4 heart chambers, where there are 2 atriums and 2 ventricles. There are also 3 circuits, but there is one difference with the coronary circuit, but there is still a systemic circuit and a pulmonary circuit.
For the nervous system, for the frog, we have the cerebrum, which is part of the brain at the back of the skull and vertebrae. It is a function to coordinate and regulate muscular activity. The cerebrum, it is responsible for the integration of complex sensory and neural functions and its intuition and coordination of voluntary activity in the body. Optic lobe, a lobe in the midbrain for which the optic nerve partly arises. The medulla, the continuation of the spinal cord within the skull, forming the lowest part of the brain stem and containing control centers for the heart and lungs. Spinal cord are cords that transmit messages between the spinal cord and the rest of the body, including muscles, skin, and internal organs. Spinal cord tissue, which is enclosed in the spine and connects nearly all the parts of the body to the brain. The brain is an organ of soft nervous tissues contained in the skull of vertebrae, functioning as coordinating centers of sensation and intellectual nervous activity. For the rat, we also have the brain, the cerebrum, the cerebellum, the spinal cord, and the differences are the brainstem, which is the center trunk of the mammalian brain containing the medulla, pons, and midbrain, continuing downwards to form the spinal cord. The dorsal root, which is 2 roots which emerge from the spinal cord and emerges directly from the spinal cord and travels to the dorsal root. The vertical root collects and provides a passageway for the outflow of blood from the left ventricle of the heart. The general comparison and the conclusion. Digestive system for the frogs have a gallbladder and no cecum, while rats do not have a gallbladder but do have a cecum. The excretory system. The frogs have kidneys, ureters, bladders, uterus, and a bronca. I practice that word. The rats share the same organs, including the cloaca. The reproductive system. The frogs have testes, vasa, and femia, seminal vesicles as their male reproductive organs. The females have ovaries and oviducts. They both share cloacas as their reproductive organs. The respiratory system. Frogs have 3 different respiratory systems due to their weak lungs. The 3 systems are the pulmonary respiration, the buccal respiration, and the culticaneous respiration. On the other hand, brown rats have the traditional mammalian respiratory system. The circulatory system. Frogs have 3 heart chambers, rats have 4, both have 3 circuits, but the frog has the pulmonaceous circuits and the brown rats have the coronary circuit. Nervous system. Both rats and frogs have the basic systems such as the brain, spinal cord, and etc. As they both have some differences, like the rat has a dorsal root and ventricle root, and the frog has the optic root.
And these are all works cited.